13 Mysterious Unexplained Ancient Artifacts. Number 13. Ica Stones. A cultural anthropologist working in Ica, Peru in the early 1930s discovered over 1,000 ceremonial burial stones in tombs of these ancient people, which contain some rather cryptic drawings, many of which are forcing researchers to take a harder look at our so-called human history. These stones have been dated as being between 500 and 1,500 years old. Some of the etches appear to contain idols of unknown gods, while other pictures seem to resemble medical procedures such as open-heart surgery and brain transplants. And the strangest markings of all contain drawings of ancient species like dinosaurs, including Brontosaurus, Triceratops, and Stegosaurus. Skeptics insist these stones must be the work of an elaborate hoax. However, the authenticity of these artifacts have yet to be proven or disproven. Number 12. Mayan Calakmul stones. In 2012, the Mexican government released some rather unusual images of what they claim to be newly discovered ancient Mayan artifacts, which are reported to have been unearthed inside the Calakmul pyramid. The pictures, which found their way inside newspapers and scientific magazines, depicted what appears to be sculptures and rock fragments, with carvings of flying saucers. Could these drawings show evidence that ancient Mayans had actual interactions with an alien species? Or is this just a clever hoax to drive up tourism in Mexico? The release of the images did seem to correlate to the hype of the doomsday calendar of the Mayan prophecies, 2012. And there has never been any authentication of the stone-carved pieces by reputable or recognized specialists. However, would the Mexican government really try and deceive the entire world? And if so, why? Number 11. Sri Lanka meteorite. This artifact fell from the sky. The perplexing formation of rock, officially named the Palunawa meteorite, is believed to have fallen to Earth in 2012. At first, researchers believed this space stone to be nothing special. That is, until they took a closer look inside. Turns out that this particular meteorite contained algae. Algae, which was not based on Earth. Some scientists dared to believe that they had uncovered a plant species from another planet. Of course, many other experts from the astronomical field have argued this viewpoint and remain critical of the so-called discovery. Many skeptics insist the strange algae is from Earth and doesn't prove a thing. However, how did algae end up inside this huge piece of space debris? The argument remains ongoing and may never have a conclusive answer, but the mystery continues to fascinate researchers from around the world. Number 10. Phaistos disc. In 1908, an Italian archaeologist unearthed an unusual clay disc with even stranger markings on the island of Crete in the Mediterranean. The artifact has been dated to be from around 1700 BC. The symbols, which are arranged in a spiral pattern on each side, have yet to be identified. The bizarre, unexplained inscriptions appear to be arranged into 61 clusters, which could be letters or possibly groupings of words in an unknown language. Despite the plethora of researchers from across the planet inspecting the strange engravings, the meanings have yet to be deciphered. Some scholars can only conclude that this disc must be fabricated, but the carbon dating has been tested numerous times and always with the same result. Similarities to other ancient symbols from across the globe remain the only clue to this mystery message, thought to be contained inside the clay etchings. Number 9. Guatemala stone head. In the 1930s, explorers found a gigantic sandstone statue in the middle of a Guatemalan jungle. Finding a giant statue of a head isn't anything new for most archaeologists. However, there was something strange about this particular artifact. The face, which was carved into the stone, did not resemble the facial features of the Maya, the Olmec, or any other people known to have populated these lands. The head appeared almost Caucasian in nature, except for an elongated cranium and sharp, fine features, which didn't seem to belong with the history of our planet, making many speculate these artifacts may be extraterrestrial in nature, while some scoff and insist this artifact is only a clever hoax. Unfortunately, revolutionary troops later used this head as target practice, destroying the features into near obscurity, so this mystery may never have an answer. Number 8. Klerksdorp spears. Over the last few decades, miners in South Africa have been digging up these peculiar, mysterious metal spears of unknown origin. These strange sphere-shaped artifacts measure approximately an inch in diameter. Many are etched with 3 parallel grooves running around the middle. Some are composed of an unexplained, solid, bluish metal with flakes of white, while the rest are comprised of a bizarre, spongy white substance. Some of these discovered stone spheres are reported to be 2.8 billion years old. Many researchers believe that these inexplicable artifacts could only have been manufactured by intelligent human beings, but our species wasn't even close to existing yet, let alone manufacturing tools. Geologists speculate that perhaps these objects are the result of concretions, forming from volcanic sediments and ash. However, these grooved lines look hand-carved, not like a result of natural process. Who or what created these circular stones, and for what purpose, remains a rather intriguing mystery. Number 7. Ubaid lizard people. Present-day Iraq is largely agreed upon to be the starting place of civilization, as this is the birthplace of the Sumerians and ancient Mesopotamia. In the early 1900s, several archaeologists began excavations at a site dubbed Ubaid and uncovered some rather disturbing artifacts. Sculptures of humanoids who appear to have reptilian features, which appear to be dated between 4000 and 5500 BC. Each figure has a different pose, though many agree the most bizarre features a lizard-like woman nursing a baby. Some speculate there is a correlation to ancient gods, but the postures do not look ritualistic in nature, and none of these ancient peoples' known deities included lizards. And there is something distinctly alien in the appearance of these still unexplained ancient artifacts. Number 6. Impossible fossils. Fossils appear inside rocks which formed many thousands of years ago. Animal bones and insect residue are common. However, there are some fossils which have been found which appear very out of place. One fossil was discovered etched inside limestone, which appears to be a human handprint, very similar to modern-day specifications, only approximately 110 million years old. Another fossil, this one with a human finger indentation, was unearthed in the Canadian Arctic. It's also theorized to be from around 110 million years ago. There's also a fossilized human handprint engraved in stone, which was found in Colombia. Researchers place its time frame to be 130 million years old. Finally, near Delta, Utah, a fossil of a human footprint etched deep into the stone with strange markings which resemble a sandal was discovered to be approximately 300 to 600 million years old. Number 5. Dropa Stones. In 1938, these disturbing discs were discovered on a cave floor under the Karaolma Mountains in China. These artifacts date back roughly 12,000 years. Over 700 have been unearthed, and each contain tiny hieroglyphic markings. The discs measure around 1 foot in diameter and carry 2 grooves which originate out from the hole in the center to form a double spiral. The hieroglyphs are hidden etched inside these tiny grooves. Archaeologists believe that they have managed to decode the message buried inside the spiral grooves. The markings weave an incredible tale of spaceships from a distant world crash landing inside the mountains. The flying ships were piloted by a race of people who called themselves the Dropa, who after encountering local humans found themselves the product of fear and hatred and were hunted, possibly to extinction. Humanoid bones, which measured only around 3 feet in height, were also found in the cave. However, all of these artifacts vanished after traveling to Russia to be photographed. The stones, the bones, everything. Number 4. Moko mokai. These are the preserved heads of the Maori, the indigenous people of New Zealand, mummified and nearly perfectly preserved. These strange artifacts remain our only surviving link to these ancient tribespeople. These heads are believed to be important tribe members, especially warriors, as evidenced by the heavy tattoo work on the leather-like preserved flesh. Though some of these mummified heads belong to the heads of enemies to their clan and were often ransomed to other tribes. In the early 19th century, Europeans arrived in New Zealand. This was the introduction of firearms to these native peoples. This time was known as the Musket Wars. And here is where history gets kind of fuzzy. Some stories say these heads were traded for weapons, while other parties insist these heads were stolen by British settlers. Surviving relatives of the Maori people currently have a campaign underway asking museums and private collectors from around the world to please return the mokai, but have had little success. Mainly because no one knows how many of these bizarre artifacts found their way overseas. Even the facts archaeologists claim to have learned from these bizarre mummified remains are only speculations. Number 3. Double medieval child burial. In 1992, remains were discovered near Germany's Frankfurt Cathedral. The gravesites contained 2 children, apparently buried together sometime between 700 and 730 AD. A double funeral for children of the same era isn't by itself unusual. What makes this case perplexing is one of the child mummies belongs to a royal Merovingian who received a Christian burial, while the other found child cadaver had been given a Scandinavian Pagan burial. The children were honored many years after their death with careful placement of a royal chapel near the gravesite. One of the recovered female bodies appears to have had high status, as her clothes and jewelry were studded in gold and precious stones. The other deceased little girl wore a Scandinavian amulet. Bare bones were mixed in with the grave dirt. Could this be a sign of the close ties between Northern Europe and the Germanic tribes? Perhaps the two children were promised to each other for marriage, to bring the clans together. The story, which led to this bizarre double burial, has historians rethinking much of what we think about European history. Number 2. Excalibur. In 1825, a mysterious sword with cryptic code inscribed on the blade was discovered in the River Witham near Lincoln, England. The sword is speculated to date back to the 13th century, but the 18-letter inscription contained in the middle of the metal has yet to be cracked. The British Library, where the sword is stored, even reached out for help in dissolving the mystery etched into the blade. The sharply honed edgework on the sword makes some theorize the sword was manufactured in ancient Germany. Others insist the two grooves which run parallel were more common to Viking swordsmanship. The cross-shaped hilt is largely associated with Christianity, and both Vikings and Germans during that time frame are believed to have been pagan. The letters are carved into the metal blade with fine golden wire. The characters appear to be from medieval England. The language and the message within, as well as the actual origin, remains unknown. Some whisper that this sword may be none other than the legendary weapon of King Arthur, Excalibur. Number 1. Betz Sphere. In 1974, the Betz family, while inspecting damages of a mysterious fire in their Florida backyard, discovered a curious metallic orb. The family brought the sphere home, and that's when the bizarre occurrences began. The family poodle whimpered and placed her paws over her ears when near the orb. Next, the family discovered if music was played nearby, the device would resonate and vibrate like a tuning fork. Different musical notes made the object hum at different frequencies. When the metal ball was pushed across the floor, the sphere would stop on its own and change directions, often a few times per roll at a perfect 90-degree angle, before returning to the original spot it was first pushed. One demonstration showed the object rolled and changed directions for 12 minutes without a single pause. Sunlight caused the sphere to vibrate tremendously, like a motor was inside. Afterwards, eerie music, doors slamming, and other creepy supernatural occurrences began. The device was turned over to the United States military, whose scientists issued massive tests, but results remained inconclusive. The artifact was tested by researchers the world over, but remained inconclusive. One professor suggested this device was potentially extraterrestrial and possibly a doomsday device. Sometime later, the Betz sphere mysteriously went missing. Did the US government confiscate it? Could the Betz family still have the orb? Did aliens reclaim their missing technology? The world may never know.